Hello, viewers. Welcome to the YouTube channel Lex Consilium Foundation. I'm Major General Neelendra Kumar in the playlist in Similia, and with us today is the senior advocate, Bengaluru based Mr. Sudhish Pai, and his book, Legends in Law, is very famous. It is highly sought after. The enlarged edition of the book is now available. You will find a picture of that in this video. And in conversation today, we are talking about the case or the personality of Sir Maurice Gwyer. Sir Maurice Gwyer is very well known here in Delhi because he was the Vice Chancellor of Delhi University at one time. Here, I would like to ask you, Sudhishi, that he was the first Chief Justice of the Federal Court, and it is agreed almost universally that he was a great jurist and a man of letters. In his book, you have given him tribute for these qualities, and you have also indicated that he unfortunately failed at the bar. Would you like to elaborate this aspect?
So Maurice Gwyer, as you said, was the first Chief Justice of the Federal Court after it was established in 1937 under the Government of India Act 1935. And in that sense, I think we must say he was the first Chief Justice of India, though he may not have been called by that designation then. But for all practical purposes,
Yes.
Sir Maurice Gwyer was the first Chief Justice of India. And what a judge. Justice Hidayatullah, talking of him, says that in looks, in his approach, in his intellect, he was every inch a judge. That's the kind of
Every
tribute.
inch a judge. Yes.
Every inch a judge. That's the kind of tribute no less an appraiser than Chief Justice Hidayatullah is pays to Sir Maurice Gwyer. Maurice Gwyer had a very distinguished. It is true that he was not very successful at the bar as an advocate. It only highlights that the qualities required for and which are
Counsel, yes.
yes, for counsel, for a judge, and for a jurist are not necessarily the same. They are
Okay.
different. Some of them, of course, some people may have all of them. For example, Justice Holmes had great practice as a counsel. He was also great as a judge and a jurist.
Okay.
Not everyone can belong to that category, having all the attributes. Unlike him, Judge Learned Hand, considered perhaps one of the most influential judges who ever sat under the sun, who was on the bench, who celebrated his 50 years on the bench, who never came to the US Supreme Court, but he was called the 10th judge, apart from the
60
nine.
6 decades as a
Yes,
judge. Yes.
yes, 5 decades, 50 years. But he was not in the Supreme Court, and it was universally acknowledged that the Supreme Court was poorer, not that he was poorer. The Supreme Court of the United States was poorer, that Judge Learned Hand did not occupy a place on the bench.
Yes.
He didn't have a very good practice at the bar, but his work as a judge and his influence on the development of law was something extraordinary. Permit me to read something in this context. This is what is said of another great jurist, Sir Frederick Pollock, all know. But again, Sir Frederick Pollock also did not have a very successful career at the bar, though, of course, his place as a jurist is absolutely secure and top class. And with regard to that, no less a person than Lord Moore, who was the Lord Chancellor, has this to say, because it is acknowledged that Sir Frederick Pollock was ineffective as a lawyer and was beaten by far inferior men. Lord Moore says, if my account of his power of speech is credited, it may be asked, why so erudite, so well-equipped a man should have failed in the ordinary practice of the law? If I may hazard a conjecture, it will be to suggest he began his life in the courts with the drawbacks almost necessarily incidental to his great qualification. The young advocate who is at once too learned and too careful of his sentences, who speaks with the care a scholar writes,
Right.
or listens to himself, which is a fatal mistake, will always have the greatest difficulty in getting on. I presume this is what Lord Moore said with respect to Sir Frederick Pollock.
Yes.
I believe that something similar could be said
This was the case here.
Sir Maurice Gwyer also. Otherwise, so distinguished a person could not have been not that successful at the bar. His lack of success at the bar was more than made up by his great accomplishments. He was the Treasury Counsel. He was more ways than one legal advisor to the British government in different departments. He was on many commissions, and his greatest work was the drafting of the Government of India Act
Yes.
1935. He may be called its principal draftsman.
Connected to this, his role and achievements contribution as a judge, it is said that Sir Maurice Gwyer, he was recognized as one of the world's leading constitutional experts. Would you like to say something in that regard?
Yes, yes. Undoubtedly, Sir Maurice Gwyer's fame and recognition as one of the top constitutional lawyers, experts, is beyond any doubt. He had the unique distinction. It's not given to many, or perhaps I don't know whether there is any other example that we know of. It fell to Sir Maurice Gwyer to draft the Government of India Act. Also fell to him to interpret it. Because as Chief Justice of the Federal Court, they had to interpret the Government of India Act. It fell to Sir Maurice Gwyer.
Yes.
And both things he did splendidly well. He
Right.
worked the Government of India Act, his judgments covering, of course, constitutional law essentially. There are a number of them between 1937 when the court sat and he retired in 1943, so about 5-6 years. Of course, they had very few cases because litigation was only
Yes.
of that volume in those days. But each of those cases, if I'm not wrong, so great a person like Sir Aladi said that in those early days, in the federal court as well as later in the Supreme Court in its earlier years, every hearing of a constitutional matter was a festival of constitutional law. But that was the kind of preparation that went into each case. You had no flights and all that. Sir Aladi used to travel by train from Madras to Delhi with trunks of books, and preparation would go on even in the train. But, the preparation was top class, nothing slipshod. And the judges, of course, they also had the time. Well, we must acknowledge that the volume of work was very, very less, and so they had the time. But what we need to appreciate, acknowledge, and really admire and revere is the kind of attention they paid to quality, both the bar and the bench. And in that sense, Sir Maurice Gwyer's judgments were top class. He had the quality of, he was so fast in his intake, as was Sir Maurice, as was Maracute Trotter. Before counsel could finish 2 propositions, he had already absorbed 5.
Okay.
That was the kind of, but both of them were absolutely, polite, patient. Just because they grasped the point, they did not hustle the counsel. They
Right.
heard them very patiently, but the
Right.
quickness of grasp was something extraordinary. So in that sense, Sir
Yes,
Maurice
it is.
Gwyer's name in the field of constitutional law is something really legendary.
Extraordinary.
Yes.
Now, moving from his contribution as a judge, he is also was credited as one of the outstanding vice chancellors, and his role in dispensation of education. Would you
Yes.
like to cover that aspect also?
So Maurice Gwyer, apart from being a great man of law, was equally a great man of letters. He was very well-read, classics, deeply devoted to the cause of education. I think even as the Chief Justice of the Federal Court, he was associated with the Delhi University. He would definitely be ranked as one of its very illustrious and formidable builders. Delhi University owes a great debt of gratitude to Sir Maurice Gwyer. It was during his time that many new departments were introduced, many new disciplines were introduced, postgraduate departments, laboratories. All this was done. He was equally associated with the Oxford University. Yeah, and digressing for a moment, the Oxford University conferred an honorary Doctor of Letters, Dillet, on none other than Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. A special convocation was held at Shantiniketan, and Sir Maurice Gwyer, as representative of the Oxford University,
Went
conferred
to
the
Shantiniketan.
yes, went to Shantiniketan and conferred the honorary doctorate on the great poet.
That's
on Gurudev.
greatness, yes.
This also is another feather in the cap of Sir Maurice Gwyer. As representative of the Oxford University, he conferred the honorary dillet of that university on Rabindranath Tagore
Tagore,
at
yes.
Shantiniketan, and a special convocation that was
Yes.
organized there. Coming to Delhi University, what is important is after he demitted office as Chief Justice in April 1943, for many years he stayed back in Delhi. For his health did not permit him, but his love for education and the university made him stay back and continued his service to the university and all its development for many years after his tenure as Chief Justice.
That is something extraordinary, great. I would advise the viewers to please continue. This sort of conversation would continue, and this would surely bring out to you the very rich legal and juristic competence that we had in our forefathers, in those experts who were there in the previous 2 centuries in India. Thank you very much. Namaskar.